They're,
Sorry. Turned to the wrong way.
Where it's to, I'm gonna sleep.
Hey, Jason,
yes, ma'am.
I failed and broke my nose.
Oh my gosh. You broke what?
Ladies, are we ready?
You're not having any luck, are you?
I knew it was broken. I failed.
Okay, that's good. All right, this time I'd like to call the work session for the White County Board of Education for July 11th, 2024 to order. Appreciate everyone being here and putting the time in as we prepare for our meeting at 6 o'clock. We'll spend this time just to go over some highlights of the items that are going to be in the consent agenda, so that way we, if there's anything in regarding that that we need to address, we can. As always, a reminder that if there's an item that we want to pull out of consent, make that known when we go to approve this, the agenda for tonight, and we'll move that into a new business item for our regular meeting after we get started. So, but right now we'll go through and we'll just cover the items on consent. We will be getting into looking at the policies for that are coming up for second reading this evening. So we'll touch on those, and I hope you got my emails, my text. Just a reminder to try to look those over and getting questions answered. There's 28 policies, if I'm not mistaken. 22 of those are tied to recently passed state legislation. Those policies are coming to us recommended by TSBA and their legal team to and submitted to us for recommendation for approval for us to consider based on their understanding of the legislation. So as we just go through and review our consent agenda items, we had our minutes from the regular board meeting and our workshop. Was there any questions, any corrections that need to be made on any of those two items? Okay, then moving forward from that, there are two budget amendment transfers that we'll be considering tonight. Excuse me. Those are funds from Perkins, CTE Perkins Reserve Grant, and then also that's the Rural Development Grant, the RUS TLD grant, and the Perkins grant is monies that will go to instructional material supplies and other supplies and vocational instructional equipment. And the Perkins grant money is federal money that goes to support our CTE program. And this particularly is going to equip and supply for the innovative criminal justice forensic science and simulation lab, and will provide for industry certification. So that's for those that are into the CSI and whatnot. It sounds like it would be a very, very interesting program and class, but that's what those funds are going to be used for. And then the Rural Development Grant, and I am saying that correctly, I'm not struggling. That would be to complete the purchase of the interactive panels and video conferencing equipment for the high school and all the elementary schools. So a fairly large number there as far as the spend, but very fortunate we have those grant funds to be able to allow us to provide that technology in our classrooms. So, any questions on the budget amendments that are for consideration? Okay. Then next, we will get into the policies that are coming for second reading. Just correction on this, the Juneteenth policy, vacation and holidays, we added that. Did we not suspend reading for that last time?
That's correct. That one's been approved because
Okay.
of the timeliness of that one. So, but it was just in there from the previous meeting.
And
Okay.
this one that's on there listed is, I had forwarded him an email of one of our staffers that had asked about the President's Day vacation, or President's Day being a vacation day for those folks as well that are required to work since school is out, teachers are off. That was just, George Washington's birthday and President's Day, so that was the reasoning behind that.
Yeah, we put that back in there for that reason as well. The schools are closed on President's Day, and so we had some staff that questioned whether that could be.
And it's also a federal holiday.
Staff holiday as well. So.
All right, so that would be something that we were asked to consider as including that in our holidays as a paid holiday, and that would be for
Yes.
11 and 12-month,
That would be for every employee.
for all employees?
All employees.
Okay, did y'all hear that and understand? All right, so so I guess the way on our consent means that we would have unanimous consent on approving that, approving adding that holiday into our list of holidays, of paid holidays. Do we think that we need to identify that as an item we need to put in our regular minutes, our regular meeting agenda, or are we comfortable with leaving that as in a consent item and approving that? That would be a first reading approval.
I'm okay with leaving it in consent. I mean, it's a federal holiday, so I'm okay with it if the Bristol board is.
Okay.
Agree.
All right, well, silence would be termed as acceptance, so if that's the case, then we won't turn that in. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so when we do this, does that mean we need to get more money in our budget to pay them for the vacation day?
No, the money is already there to pay them. They just wouldn't work for it that day. It'd just be
Perfect. Okay. I understand, thank you.
So, for clarification, Ms. Fowler's question, she asked if there was, if there would be any additional cost additions to our budget to pay for that holiday, and the money is already in the system appropriated. They just otherwise would not get paid for that day. So it would be a net zero cost to the district. Okay. Based on what I'm hearing from your board members, we'll leave that in consent, and that would be a
vacation.
that would be
Yes.
Right, they would be paid for it. You said they would not be paid for it, but that would be a paid vacation day.
if it wasn't.
Okay,
If
yeah.
we didn't approve it, they would
Yes,
not be,
yes, okay.
they would not be paid. So if
Yeah.
I spoke otherwise, I apologize. But yes, this would be allowing them to be paid for that day, for all employees of the district to be paid for that holiday. All right, then we'll leave that in, we'll move on, then start to the approval of the TSBA recommended policies, and these are second reading policies. Again, as I mentioned, I think there's approximately 28 policies, and with 22 of those directly tied to recently passed legislation. First policy is, and we'll just go through here. I'll give you the opportunity to raise any questions as we look at these. First policy is 1501, visitors to school. Does anyone have any questions after reviewing that policy? And following that in your packet, there is a visitors code of conduct that will be posted.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
in.
that's the example of what that code of conduct draft will look like.
And that will be posted as you come into the school in the secure area so that everyone can see it, correct?
Yes.
Do you have a question?
I do, when you're ready to go back to the vacation day, to President's Day, I do have we need to make a clarification there. So the 11 and 12-month employees that would be working, if we were saying 10-month employees, teachers' aides, for example, they wouldn't be working that day, so we don't have money budgeted for them. Yeah, so what we were looking at as far as like Juneteenth, what was different about that is we had a limited number of 11 and 12-month employees, custodians, maintenance folks, that was a paid holiday for them. So if the board is considering adding President's Day for all staff, then we don't have that money budgeted for those people. We have it for the custodians and maintenance that similarly to Juneteenth that would have had money in the budget for them to be paid, but it wouldn't be there for 10-month employees for teachers' aides. They'd have the day off, which is what they have now when we have President's Day, but basically their contract is just essentially if students are in school, they're in school and they're paid. So that would have to be a distinction.
You might have, depending on your snow day count, that might work out where it didn't really affect anything, because they don't get paid for snow days, they don't work, but we budget for them to work those days and not use those days. So you might not see a difference at all.
So I just want to make the clarification that what was going to happen this year on President's Day is that schools will be closed, 10-month employees would be off, 10-month staff people, like cafeteria workers and teachers' aides, they wouldn't have been paid that day, but they'd have the day off. But some 11 and 12s, like custodians and maintenance folks, would be working that day. So if they were off, there would be money in the budget to pay them, but not to pay the people that were already going to be off by contract. So I just want to make that distinction in how the board wants to handle that. But there would be a significant amount, and I'd have to figure what it is, but number amount to paying all those 10-month employees that were going to be off anyway, because that money's not in the budget.
So,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, maybe we better pull
Well,
this out.
Well, what I was going to say, I was thinking that same thing too, is maybe pulling this out, talking about it. Or if we can push this off to next month, let Mr. D gather some numbers, get Mr. Markham to gather him some numbers on what that would go against our budget. I'm okay with that.
Okay. I think with that clarification and understanding, appreciate you bringing that to our attention. I think we would either pull it out of consent, put it into new business, and then maybe we could at that time formally ask Mr. Markham and Mr. Drumbarger to go back and do a financial assessment of how that would
That works, that's fine for me.
Are we okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Howard, you had a question?
I think you all answered it, because I was going to ask, when could we discuss who it would affect and how much it would cost us? And we'll discuss that when I come back with some figures.
We can make that as part of our request when we ask them to go and do some further investigations, so.
I
all
think
right.
Mr. Markham may have to move right here, because I thought Mr. D was looking at me for the answer. So I was like going, he can't, oh, Chad.
All right.
I'll just move it inside he looks over here, okay?
All right, so we'll have to remember to move this.
Change it right now.
Okay, that'll be helpful, so that way I don't just breeze through it and overlook it. Been known to do that once or twice. All right, so, we first looked at 1501, and we have the example for that code of conduct will look like. Next is any questions on 1800? Okay. Surplus property sales, 2403.
I mean, I know there's not a lot of published, the paper comes out once a week now, but do we need to have, is this, with the information for the website being in there, is that enough notice for the time crunch, or, you know, in accordance with state law, to be able to put that on the expositor's website or, and on our website as public notice, or?
We just have to provide it in that, you know, in
7
that
day window,
forum.
in that 7 day window.
Mhm.
Okay. Because newspapers are about a thing of the past.
Well, I think we can get that on,
Gov deals.
well, we do it on GovDeals, but we can get it on, we can get it on their,
He's not a newspaper.
their website or on Sparta Live
Yeah.
prior, maybe not their print publication in that time, but.
Okay.
They do a great job of keeping us informed.
All right. Policy 2806, bids and quotations, where we set that amount to where all purchases in excess of $25,000 based on competitive bids. And so I think that was the amount that's recommended that we adopt for this policy. Any questions on that? 2806.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. What is in place or in policy here for the possibility of saying, hey, we've got a $75,000 project coming up right here, but don't want to submit that, we're going to break it down into 3 $25,000s. Is there anything in place, or is that just say, hey, we're not going to break that moral rule or common?
No, that's, Mr. Markin can speak to it.
That's in part of our financial policies for the county, which encompasses all this, and purchasing policies that you're not supposed to split that stuff up in order to do that. We try to keep an eye on that to make sure that doesn't happen when purchase orders come through.
Sorry, I wasn't pointing the finger or anything, it just
No.
come to my mind right there saying,
Yeah,
hey,
no, it's a
you know,
good question.
There's a
That's the
workaround.
responsibility of a fiscal agent, right? To make sure that that doesn't happen.
yeah, whoever.
So, okay. Moving on, emergency preparedness plan, 3202. Yes, Ms. Fowler.
I got a question about 2806.
Okay.
So, how can we keep, to keep somebody honest, if it's under 25,000, say you got a project that should only cost about 3,000, that somebody may only charge 3,000, but then we hire somebody and don't get a bid and they charge 5.
So, Mr. Morgan, you may speak this. I'm going to take a shot at it. This is for competitive bids. That doesn't mean that anything under $25,000 does not receive a quote, an estimate, or some way to establish the cost before a purchase order would be submitted, correct?
That's correct. Actually, anything from between 10 and
10 and
25
25.
requires 3 quotes.
Okay.
That's not part of this policy, but that's part of our procedures, I guess. you could say.
Okay.
And then anything other, it doesn't
We'll have to tell
necessarily
her
require
again
a quote,
because she
but
won't be able to hear that.
those are encouraged.
Right. But the actual initiator of the purchase would be the purchase order from the county to the vendor stating cost and what's for and what the cost is.
Right, and those get turned in before the purchase orders.
Correct.
Issue the purchase order based on that.
Okay. All right. So,
Okay, thank you, guys.
you're welcome. Just for clarification, so you say that there's county policy that would supplement this. I just wonder if that, when we get into next next few months, it might be, and we look at these policies when this comes up, it might be something that we might want to make a recommendation, just as footnote to reference supplemental practices by the county, which serves as our fiscal agent. That might be, because somebody could look at this and say, hey, you know, we don't have to competitive bid up to $25,000, but if there's county policy that's in place, that it probably needs to be referenced, I would think,
Good idea.
just for clarity. Okay. All right, and thank you for bringing that up, Mr. John Barger. Let's see, 3202, Emergency Preparedness Plan. Okay, the revision to 3205, Security.
Is this, the highlighted portion is just, that's what's been added?
This is
It
what's,
was not in there before?
or it may be changed from the previous policy, but that's the alteration. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I like that they put law enforcement above the director, so they need to be the first ones on, en route.
Okay. Next, move to 3400, Student Transportation Management. Questions, comments on that policy?
Yes, I've got one. Is this gonna be a new position, new employee, or just someone else taking over this responsibility?
On school transportation management?
Yes.
No, it's just clerical. It's just clerical need. We have all of this information in place. It's a checklist. We already have the procedure in place. It's just they have to be issued this and sign off on it before they can drive. And we're in the process of getting all of our drivers certificated at this time.
Okay.
So, and our policy is just reflecting that's what we shall do.
This is new, this portion saying that they must have this certificate before they start driving. We already have the procedure in place, and so we're just going to make sure it's signed off on it, and we're actually doing it electronically through our My Benefits Channel portal, so they can sign digitally, and we'll have copies of it both at the bus garage and here at the central office.
Okay. All right. Then we'll move on to 4200, Curriculum Development. Questions, comments? Okay, then we'll move on to 4201, class size ratios.
This basically is just saying that, like White County, many school systems have CTE courses in their middle schools, and this allows us to adjust to allow, CTE courses are a lot of times limited to 20 students. This allows us to have more students, to waiver more students in those classes to make them more applicable to middle school settings.
Are any of our CTE students that are in the middle school, are they having to be bused over to the CTE building for any of those classrooms? Are those?
Not currently. We have career explorations and agriculture right now at the middle school, and those are both handled at the middle school.
Okay. Who's taking care of that, the agriculture side of it at the middle school?
Miss Terry Stubblefield, but it's still, all those classes are overseen by Lane Ward
Lane Ward,
from
okay.
the high school.
Okay.
Okay. The next, there's a revision to our Family Life Education Policy, 4213.
Mr. Chairman, is this referring to an ultrasound? Will that be an pretty much so?
It's a video showing prenatal activity, must be shown as part of the life curriculum.
What grade level will this be?
This is high school. It's a family life curriculum for those that take that course. There's some examples out there. I think it's Baby Olivia is the name of the video that the state has shared, but it has to be one like that to show the development stages, prenatal development stages.
And they say that's a big lifesaver to see those, so I wish every kid could see it.
All right, then we'll move on to 4214, use of artificial intelligence programs.
Is this a new policy?
This,
It is, and our technology coordinator, Mr. Russ, is working on that to compile the list of AI programs and other programs, a list of programs that are being used in the various schools, and then there's stipulations on how staff can use them, a student can use them.
I'm assuming that those will be blocked by the firewalls, unless approved by Ms. Russ and her department.
Yes, there's some extent AI has been being used, by all of us already, in
Right.
some extent, to spell checks and things like that. But there are some that are good, but obviously there's some perils involved with it, so it's going to be a challenge to stay in front of that. But that's the design behind this policy.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add, is this in response to the law? Is this going down to the middle school level,
It's all of our schools.
district.
elementary and everything?
Mhm.
Okay. So this is programs age appropriate all the way down through what grade level? K?
All of our schools, so
K through- okay.
pre-K-12.
K through 12? That would show how ignorant and dumb I am to get on one of them. I need to take the class.
We, it's, one of the things evident to me in reading this, this policy is this amount of respect to have for Ms. Rust and her skills for having to stay up on top of all this technology. I mean, we think about technology just getting our computers hooked up to the Wi-Fi, but having to go in and educate yourself about artificial intelligence programs and the pros and cons of the ones that are out there, that's a deep dive. So appreciate her having her willingness to do that and the skills that she has to do that. All right, next we'll move on to 4301, interscholastic athletics. The change there is just about allowing homeschool students to be able to participate in the TSSAA and the TMSAA programs under those guidelines, and so that's.
We've already been following these policies already,
Yeah,
haven't
we already do that. I think what had happened was there was probably a school that didn't participate in TMSSA, and they told somebody that they couldn't play because we don't participate in that, so they're just covering it. Whether you're a member of TSSAA or TMSSA or TMSAA, either way, you still have to adhere to the homeschool rule.
Next, move on to 4403, library materials.
If you
Speak
don't
to that,
mind,
yeah,
yes.
sure.
Basically, what is changed, and our librarians, our school librarians are responsible for the collections within the buildings for the most part. What changed here is basically the appeals process goes to the principal/director, and then it goes from that first appeal directly to the board. So previously it went really from the school, then to the director, then to the board. So it's kind of the school and director are one, and now it moves on to the board for appeals after that. So it just kind of streamlined that appeals process.
Okay. Any other questions on comments regarding 4403? Okay, and 4600, grading system, and regarding dual enrollment courses, speak to that.
Yes, previously dual enrollment courses aligned for 4 percentage points of a student's grade point average, and that's been moved to the 5-point category. So it can be worth 5 percentage points of their overall grade.
All right, next we'll move to, next policy is 4603, the promotion and retention. That change given revision speaks to voluntary retention and giving parents and guardians options for K through second.
Could the director clarify with me, if they're held back in K through 2, the third grade retention law?
It's null and void.
Okay, so that's what I was getting at. What about the fourth grade?
It takes care of that, so.
Okay. So can you see, how's this going to play into, what do you think?
Well, I don't think it'll be a mass usage of that, but, I mean, I could see where someone was struggling, and they might use that as an opportunity to avoid that. But then again, that may be the best thing, because I'm in the mindset as administrator that we probably shouldn't hold people after the second grade, if at all possible. K2 is the foundation, so if a parent feels like they need to be held for that reason, then we probably feel that way too. So, but it would eliminate that threat of the third, fourth grade retention.
I think that's pretty well standard thought for most teachers, isn't it? That K through 2 is that sort of the pivotal points. So, sounds good.
Any other comments, questions? All right, then we'll move on to 5307, physical assault leave.
Basically, previously this policy just said it applied just to teachers. Now it applies to all staff. That's in a nutshell what this change is.
Questions, comments?
I think it's a good idea.
All right, then we'll, next is regarding substitute teachers, 5701. It's regarding training orientation and the responsibility of ensuring the proper training and development programs for substitutes, which includes safety.
Is this going to be a logistics thing right here, how to get them here and how to get them trained? Or is that when you catch them here, train them? Or?
No, we do the majority of our training. It's twofold. We do training online. There's several modules that they have to do before they can go into the schools, and then each individual school is the first time that they sub at that school. The principal takes them through the protocols of how things work uniquely at that school as far as safety is concerned.
Will it be modified any from grade to grade, from exit to exit, or just minute to?
Somewhat. I mean, I could see a difference between fifth grade and pre-K, but not, for the most part, those things will be gone over with the principal and with the superintendent. Excuse me, with the substitute and the principal when they arrive.
I think it's a great idea. More work, but it's a good idea.
All right, next is revision to policy 5802, qualifications duty of directors of school. There was a modification made on page 3, section 8, about reporting. Now, I guess it's where you have to report any convictions or if anybody that was has pled guilty to a felony or some type of offense in another jurisdiction, that has to be made known if they're applying in our district. So, and we would also have be required to reciprocate to other districts as well.
Do we know, does this cross states that go interstate? This
Yes,
information?
yes, that's what it's pertaining to.
Okay.
All right, next, policy 6203, and revision into the subject of adjudicated delinquent students. So, just giving principals and trying to find out if the little background on those that may be coming in from from other areas into our district, and if there's any derogatories that might be following them, so. All right, we'll move towards 6300, and that's code of conduct, and provision change for that is it's regarding disciplinary procedures. We had, when we talked about this in preparing for this meeting, you outlined that well as far as what that means. Could you speak to that this policy?
Just in the disciplinary procedures as they pertain to level 4, and this really has to do with the death threats or threats of mass violence, is that the law enforcement officials and director of schools are immediately contacted. So there's not a long investigative process before they call and say, hey, here's what's going on in the school. Immediately they let us know. That way we get, I can let the board know, and the law enforcement can get involved in their investigation. So there's no delay in an investigation with this type of misbehavior.
Okay, any questions on 6300?
Is threats of mass violence, is that a zero tolerance policy now?
That's the next policy.
That's, yeah,
Sorry.
no, you're
My
fine.
bad.
See, that
Funny you should ask.
it's
Yeah,
lead
funny you
into 6309, zero tolerance and offenses, so I'll let you continue with that.
It is considered a zero tolerance offense, and so that's what's been highlighted here in this change in this policy. And then if you go to the very next policy, which is 6316, which deals with suspension, you can also be suspended for an invalid threat of mass violence. So making a credible threat or a serious threat that turns out to be invalid can still be a suspendable offense under these policies. So there's also some leeway also to there's some flexibility there would be as well. There's some a convening of administrators and law enforcement that we can determine if the threat is credible or not. There's a difference between two first graders saying I'm going to kill you on the playground and maybe two 12th graders that have access to weapons. And so we have some flexibility to determine whether it's really a credible threat or not. We don't want to get to where we're arresting first graders for such activity. So there is a little flexibility there. We'll be working with law enforcement, but we will investigate all of them seriously to determine whether the threats are valid or not. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I jumped ahead on another policy.
No, that's fine, because those were all very, very related, so it's good just to go on and have that discussion, because I think they are.
Because this carries a
Quite
hefty
clear.
penalty with it too. I'm glad that there's some leeway in there. A year, calendar year suspension, possible modification.
Mhm.
So, just for clarity, let's make sure we all understand. We're talking about policies 6300, 6309, 6316, and then 6318. So all those very much tie together around this change, so you see.
Well, and I like the fact that it includes the school-sponsored events as well, keeping those folks who have done those threats or done stuff like that from coming to an event that would be on campus or outside on the property, keeping them banned from coming to those as well, just in case they decide to do something that they've made a threat on. So.
So next policy is 6409, just a vision that now our child abuse coordinator is going to be submitting any information regarding potential child abuse to Department of Children's Services. Have that correct? And
Yes, although I would recommend TSBA change that to Child Abuse Prevention Coordinator, because we don't want to be coordinating our child abuse, but our prevention of such. But I'll make that recommendation. But But
So-
all this is saying that we need to have an alternate. We already have a coordinator, but we need to have an alternate, and we need to submit those names to to DCS.
Okay, I stand corrected, because the coordinators would be the ones that would be coordinating with DCS.
Yes. Yeah, under policy, under law, when there is a report, you have to report to law enforcement, to the director of schools, and to your child abuse prevention coordinator.
And we have a coordinator at each school?
No, we have a district-wide coordinator.
Because this says,
Well, all Tennessee citizens are mandatory reporters. So everybody's legally bound, whether they're in school systems or not, to report. And, but in the school systems, they report to their supervisor and to law enforcement, and they have to do that. They can't just say, I told my supervisor, and that's where it stops. They're required by law to report it to law enforcement and the child abuse prevention coordinator as well. And we can assist them in that, but they have to make the report.
but I mean, the way this is written, I don't know if that needs to be. It says designate one employee, and then it says for each school. So I don't know that we need that.
Yeah, we do have the principals down as the schools, because that's where they report to their supervisor. So the building principals do that.
So the building principals would be that alternate.
Alternate, yes.
Child abuse
Mhm.
coordinator.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't read that part. Thank you.
For each school, and then they'd be responsible for submitting that to.
We just need to submit those names, is what it states.
Okay. And then we get to the last policy revision, that's 64052, and revision modification says that we cannot prohibit any student, employee, visitor from possessing an opioid antagonist on his person, on property, while attending school-sponsored events held at location, or attending a school-sponsored activity held at a location that's not on school property. So that's something that we cannot prevent individuals from possessing. All right, so any questions on policies?
Mr. Chairman, that last one right there, can someone give me a layman's answer to what is an opioid antagonist? Is something that,
I mean, similar to an EpiPen, so to speak. I mean, it to diffuse the, Narcan. It's Narcan is what it is, and we have it in the to eliminate the adverse effects of certain drugs and to revive a patient. So.
controlled substances?
A lot of we have those in our schools. Our nurses have those, and our SROs have those antagonists.
So now, worst case scenario, anybody allowed to walk off the street carrying one of these right here. What if a student gets hold of it and injects somebody that's not having?
I don't believe it's harmful.
It's not harmful?
Narcan is not harmful for you to have.
Answer my question.
Yeah.
Good deal.
But
Must have been any study.
It really has. I think it mostly has to do with fentanyl. It's used in most cases where people have fentanyl overdoses, and so this will help revive them.
Ms. Griffin.
Thank you.
I think Ms. Griffin had.
I did the training for the Narcan, and the way they train, and I did a community training, and what they tell you is if you think there's a chance, you administer it because it's not going to do it. If it's not needed, it won't affect you adversely. So, and it's straight into the thigh like an EpiPen. Like, if I could do it, anybody can. But they just basically say if you think there's a need, do it.
Thank you. It's good to know.
So that concludes our policies. So modifications and recommendations. So those will be coming up for second reading approval in our consent agenda. All right, then just continue on. You've seen our packet. We have a maintenance report for July. It tells about the activities of things that are taking place at all of our campuses across the county. A lot of maintenance going on this time of year as we start preparing for the new school year upcoming. Any questions regarding the maintenance report?
Bathrooms will be ready at the high school by the time school starts.
That's what they say.
Okay.
Then also included in your packet, there is no school report this month. There's not a budget report, nor is there a TLN report, unless, sorry, Mr. Howard didn't see anything in there, them not being in session. Is there anything?
No, like you said, Mr. Chairman, you see what we're wiping up or putting in implementation here with the 24th session did this spring. They're already calling for summer law to start working on 2025 and inputs there. And of course, only some of the things that I might could go over right there. Of course, Kentucky filed a lawsuit against the federal government on Title IX. And supposedly, is Tennessee lumped in with that? Is that a class action, or Tennessee's on hold to see what Kentucky comes out with? I couldn't find any conclusions on that. Vouchers are still going to be a question at summer law. State revenues and election dates and recall of school board members, they said could come up at summer law. So if we have any questions, we want to do any background and information. So that's just some of the things that might come up to talk about.
Okay.
Gatlinburg.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. No threat assessment report this month. You have been. It has been shared with you. Personnel reports running up through June, and also included that with any terminations that have taken place during that time. There is in our consent, there's a Cassville fundraiser that has been asked for it to be approved. This was not included in last month's, and so it was asked to be put in this month's to get this, allow this to take place. This Cassville PTO doing a spring art show and auction. Support the various activities at Cassville. Any questions on that fundraiser?
Just for clarity, there is two.
Fall festival.
Fall festival and a spring festival.
I'm sorry. That's the reason why we need. That's the reason why we need to go on and get this going, so they can take care of that in the fall. Fall will be here before you know it. All right. Last meeting, it was brought up that we'd like to continue our tour of the district and the various schools throughout the district. So what we did is we passed the school board meeting schedule, but we left TBAs for the September through April time periods. Those locations have now been set. September at the middle school, October at the high school, November at Bondycroft, and the new modifications that have taken place there. Cassville in December, Dole in January, Findlay in February, Northfield March, and we'll wind up our tour next April at Woodland Park. So is that acceptable? Is that what board members you were wanting to see out of this? Okay.
Just want to say thank you to the board. I think that's very important for the community. You did a good job.
Okay.
And Mr. D, thank you.
And then finally will be in the consent item is the district assessment calendar for 24-25. That schedule was posted out, and we see a distinction, state mandated testing, and then diagnostic testing that's done throughout the year. Anything you would like to share with us on that, or
No,
for
this
us to
is
consider?
No, this is just part of policy that the board is to approve it, so it's out there and it's been published on our website for some time, so it just needs board approval to be official.
So any questions on the assessment calendar? All right. Well, then that concludes the items that will be in our consent agenda tonight. So we will, if I just make note about pulling the President's Day out, we'll move that to new business item 12D, and then we'll cover the other items we have on the agenda. All right, so this time we'll conclude our workshop and start at a regular board meeting at 6 o'clock. All right, this time I'd like to call the July 11th meeting, 2024 meeting, of White County Board of Education to order. Ask if you would please rise, and Mr. McDonald, would you please lead us in a pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. I'd like to welcome everyone that's here tonight, members of the public and those of our staff and media board members. Appreciate you being in attendance tonight as we kick off the start of the 2024-2025 school year for the White County District. Tonight's meeting is being live streamed. It can be found on our meeting calendar on our website at whitecoastschools.net. And feel free to go back, and those videos of our meetings are archived, and you can go back and review those if you so choose. Policies and guidelines that we follow laid out by the state of Tennessee. The school board conducts meetings in public, and we are available, conduct our meetings in public per law, and we follow the guidelines that are outlined in regards to some of the things that we covered, like conflict of interest, consent agendas, and items of that nature. So tonight we have a agenda that's been presented to you, board members, and for review and consideration, and that will lead us into the next item on our agenda, and that's after reviewing this agenda for tonight. If there are any conflicts of interest on any agenda items, appreciate you letting the members know at this time.
Mr. Chairman, as I do each and every month, just want to make a statement that my wife is an employee of this school district, a teacher in one of our schools, and the opinions that you hear from me tonight are solely my own and for the best interest of the student, staff, and the entire district of White County.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Chairman, I will state the same as Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Hickey.
Mr. Chairman, same thing goes for me. I said ditto, plus I just have to add also my wife and other family members work for the school system. But my decision is made solely in the best interest of the school as a whole.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Howard, and we do appreciate your spouses serving our district, and appreciate you drawing that to our attention tonight. And Ms. Sims, just make note that no items on tonight's agenda reflect a conflict of interest by those who have identified themselves with spouses working in the system. So next, that leads us to the approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. As you can see, that has meeting agenda has been published, and you've had an opportunity to review. So this time, I would like to draw you to one item, housekeeping item, that before we get into motion for approval, there was discussion in our workshop of pulling item 6C, number I, consideration adoption of President's Day vacation, to our policy 5310. We decided that needed more discussion, so we pulled that out and added that to the new business as a new business item. That's been pulled from our consent agenda. So at this time, I would entertain a motion for approval of our agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. McDonald. Have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Howard. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, it brings us to our consent agenda. Consent agenda are items that have been considered and have unanimous approval for the board. Those items tonight consist of approval of our minutes that were held on our June 13th meeting, 2 budget amendments and transfers. We had policy report, the approval of TSB recommended policy changes that would come to coming forward as second reading. We had a maintenance report. We did not have a school report, budget report, TLN report, monthly threat assessment report. We did have personnel reports that were reviewed. 2 fundraisers for Cassville that were not met, were not included in last month's fundraising approval. And then location for the school board meetings, on-site school board meetings for the 2024-25 meeting schedule, and then approval of our assessment calendar. So those are the items in our consent agenda that was considered approval to move forward by consent by all board members. So at this time, we will just move forward with a vote. So all those in favor of approving our consent, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next moves to item number 7. That's our district update. We'll turn over to Ms. Drumbarger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As stated, there's personnel report in your folders. We've had a lot of employee transactions over the past month, which is very normal. Currently, we have 1 certified position to fill and a handful of staff positions. We have applicants, and we're filling those vacancies as they come, as they open. We're in very good shape compared to many other districts, and we're able to fill our vacancies with top talented people. Signage, window treatments, cameras, and locks continue to go on throughout those projects continue to go on throughout the district for safety measures. Academically, teachers officially report on July 29th. That many of them have been in throughout the summer for various training and seminars. Initial TCAP data is in, and White County ranks high in the state and in the Upper Cumberland in most tested subjects. There'll be more details as that throughout the summer and fall as that data becomes unembargoed. Financially, I've spoken to our finance director, Mr. Chad Markham, about the recently approved school budget, and we're planning to schedule monthly meetings to address the concerns about rising costs and dwindling revenues. So there'll be more to come on that subject as we meet throughout the year. Athletics, the TWSAA dead period has passed, and fall sports have resumed practice. Some teams have contests scheduled the first week of school. Building projects. The greenhouse at White County Middle School is near completion. A walkthrough punch list is being prepared. There's still much to do at Bondycroft, but the crew understands that school will open on time. There will likely be touch-ups going on as school begins, but we're planning a countywide open house on the night of the school's regular open house, which is August 8th. And if I could get your attention for just a moment, I've took some recent pictures of Bondycroft. So there's the outside facade. That's today. So they did the paving out front today. I would call this work 90-ish% done at this point, and but they've been told without fail we will start school on time. So I think things are coming along. A little zoomed in there on the front. This will be obviously it's the new front entrance, and there's going to be lettering up here. It'll say Bondycroft Elementary. The initial lettering they had was too small. So we ordered some larger lettering and repurposed the other. This is looking up the sidewalk going in. These line heads were cut by our high school students. Our high school welding class cut those out for us. All the students at Bondycroft signed those with a Sharpie, and then we had them powder coated to seal in their signatures forever. So they've all signed those, and those will be up there on the school. They look really good. This is the back drive going behind the existing gym, and this will be an access road for maintenance. It'll be blocked off with a gate, but if we need to get back there for maintenance purposes, that's where that goes. This is looking, as you come around, at the back side of the new addition. So as that road comes around, that is the pre-K playground, and we've tied in all the existing sidewalks to make good access and good water flow. There's that lettering we talked about that was too small for outside, but this is inside the vestibule. That's actually the door going into the gym. So that's the gym doors going in here. So you're standing where the short building used to be, looking at the entrance to the gym. That area will be great for ball game nights because the rest of the school can be locked off, and then this is the only place you can go is to come into that vestibule and go right into the gym. Speaking of the gym, we have new bleachers installed in the gymnasium. There's also new air conditioning in the gym, and there's also new windows in the gym where those old ugly exhaust fans used to be. There's now pretty windows letting sunlight in. New bathrooms outside the gym area. This is a kindergarten classroom, furnished and just ready for us to move on all of our stuff. This is another kindergarten classroom downstairs. This is pre-K classroom downstairs as well, which opens out into that playground area we saw earlier. This is upstairs. This is a really neat room. This is the art and music room. You see the risers for the music students to stand on, and then all the high-top tables for art projects. They have storage and sinks in there as well. This is a general education classroom upstairs, as is this one. And then this is a look at the library. Looking towards the librarian's desk, and this is looking from her desk the other direction. So really fantastic spot. I'm sure we will probably meet in there when it comes time for the board's meeting there. And just another look out at the outside, and again, the lettering for Bonnycroft Elementary will be right there. So just a quick look, just want to give you an update. We're very, very close, and we're very, very excited. Lots to happen, but we have no doubts that we will start school on time in the new buildings. Any questions on Bonnycroft? Okay.
On behalf of that district, I know everybody's excited and looking forward to it and anticipated this for many decades, and I'm glad to see it come to conclusion. And it's going to be a great improvement for the community, for the school, everybody involved. And are we still planning on our August 8th walkthrough or open house?
Yes, yeah.
Will we walk through before then? Or?
Well, it's possible. I let the board know we had a walkthrough recently, and some of the board members weren't able to attend, but I'll let you know if there's another one prior to that. And if you want to go, just you and me, we'll go sometime. Just let me know when you're available. But the open house night, which is for the entire county, will be a night that the public will be allowed to come in and tour it as well. So we want to make sure it's as done as it can be when we make first impressions.
Looks good.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to give the floor to Ms. Farrah Griffith. She's going to talk to you just a little bit about our Bob, not this Bob, but Bob the Book Bus, and some of the happenings that's been going on with our bookmobile this summer.
So,
Just one down in the bottom left corner. There's yeah.
start with the other. First of all, Dr. Butcher is kind of the mother of this project. She started our Guild grant before she swapped positions. And once Mr. D hired me, Dr. Butcher came down and said, oh, by the way, we have a grant for a book bus, and you got to get a book bus and get it going. And she's been very passionate about it, and she's kind of rubbed off on me, and so this has kind of been a fun adventure. So we had a different bus, and we ended up with this bus, which we found down in Georgia, and Mr. D's great at finding deals online, so if you ever need any. But we were able to get a former bookmobile, so it kind of made the canvas blank for us to be able to make a book bus pretty quickly. So if you've seen Bob around the community, this is Bob, which is Books on Board. So we kind of just refer to him as Bob when we talk about him, kind of that he has a persona. So I just kind of wanted to give you a little info about what Bob's been doing. So GELF is the Governor's Early Literacy Foundation, and that is just all about putting books in the hands of kids and giving kids access to be lifelong learners. So through the grant, we launched back in December on the last minute, and we were able to give out over 600 copies of The Night Before Christmas. Thanks to Jackson Kayak and their generous donation, we walked the parade route and were able to give out copies of the Golden Book. So if you're like me and they're old, you know what that's about. After that, we have stocked our book bus with mainly used books that we've gotten through the library. And we partner with Ms. Farley and the public library, and we've been able to make the books shelves pretty stocked for now. So we started out with a couple visits to after-school programs in the spring to kind of see how it was going to work. And you can see lots of happy kiddos. We did it in after-school family night, so we had adults and children alike on the book bus. And it's been really awesome to see adults hop on there and sit down with their kids and try to read a book. Bob needs to be bigger is the only problem we have because we can't fit a lot of kids on at a time. But we were able to go to the kickoff for summer reading at the drive-in, and we had over 200 people on our bus over the course of about an hour. So that was a lot of on and off the bus, but we had a really good time at the kickoff for summer reading. So just Bob has a diary, so Bob's keeping a diary of his travels. So to date, we've had over 1,700 books handed out off of Bob through the parade and after school and our summer reading program. And Ms. Savage has served over 600 meals off of Bob this summer to do some of our summer feeding. So if you see Bob around the community, wave at him. And if you have anyone who's interested in some type of service for our district, we would love donations for Bob, because every book that goes off of Bob is a gift to a child. They're not checkout. So we would love any opportunity to add to Bob's shelves if you have anyone who might want to do that. So just wanted to kind of give you a little good news. I was able to go to the Book Bus Summit back in April, and I was very impressed with a little district like White County and where we are already with our book bus compared to some large districts. Got some great ideas, but came back happy with where we are to be a small place to be able to put Bob on the road and hand out books. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, first of all, yes, there is a book bus summit. I had to be convinced of that. But no, I want to thank Ms. Griffith and Dr. Butcher for their work on this. There was really their labor of love, and it's been a really neat thing, and it opens a lot of opportunities. In fact, our food service folks have been using that bus all summer. They've been handing out meals and food at the same time, so it's been fun. So other than that, it's a very busy administrative time, but it's an exciting time as we prepare for the next school year. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions, but that completes the director's report.
All right. Questions for Director? You brought up raw data from TCAT scores or TCAP scores, and then also some data from high school. And did seem like things were trending in a positive way for White County, especially in the elementary grades.
Yeah, we're really excited about the initial scores that have come back in. I think our numbers, about 25 out of 27 tested categories, we scored above the state. And then we were above, I have kind of unwritten rules that we want to be above the state in every category, and we want to be in the top 5 in the Upper Cumberland in every category, and we are nearly there in almost every category. We lead the Upper Cumberland in many of those, and so really proud. I'm really proud of the gains we saw in 4th and 5th grade. And some in 3rd grade as well. So we saw some really good scores there, and we know that those were areas of emphasis. So lots of things to celebrate. There'll be more to come. They haven't got out with letter grades and school designations just yet, but there'll be more as those numbers become unembargoed. But just really excited about the initial data. I think the board can be proud, and parents can be proud of what's going on academically in these schools.
That's great. That's great. Other questions, comments? For a director? Okay. Then we'll move on to a next item on our agenda, and that's the update regarding the naming facilities request. We took action last month to name the Board of Education the boardroom. We're following our policy 3210. So I think Mr. Drumbarger has an update for us on that as well.
Okay. So as Mr. McDonald proposed, the boardroom be named in honor of Richard McBride and Kenneth Robinson, our former board members who passed away while in service to the board. And so I came up with some mock-ups, but it certainly opened the board's prerogative about how we do that. So I thought we would use our school logo and incorporate that into the design. And we could put outside these doors, we could put, and this would just be, instead of a metal, we could just do vinyl cling, it would be really inexpensive. So I've already talked the price. The whole cost of this project would be $250. So they could put the logo out there. We could come up with a dedication plaque also that could be posted out there on that side of the door, or we could just put something as a title to the Robinson McBride boardroom, whatever the board would decide there. Then inside this room, up here, we could do that same logo and then have the Robinson McBride boardroom across that board right there. So it's good to be all done with vinyl, and they said they install and everything. It's approximately $250 for us to do that. The board could do a proclamation if they wanted to be issued to the families. We could do a number of different things. We could do smaller plaques if you want to replicate the one we put out there, whatever the board's prerogative. But just thought that would be simple and it'd be a great way to honor these folks that gave so much. And so I appreciate Mr. McDonald bringing that to our attention and to the board's attention. But again, this is just a suggestion, and we can go any direction that the board would like.
Those signs, could they do the same thing at our metal shop or the ones that did that?
They can. It'd be more costly, and those are pretty heavy. I mean, we just have to pay for the metal, but they could do all that. They could cut all that. It'd be a little more expensive to do that, but it is possible. This would probably be in 2 pieces because of the length. They can only do about an 8-foot section. That might fit. They might be able to get it on one piece, but it would have to be a different script to tie it together.
Yeah. But the one like for the door?
Yeah. Yeah, similar to that, just a little bit smaller. Yeah, we could do it in metal if the board wanted to.
It doesn't matter to me.
I just think that ties our students to it.
Yeah, it ties our students to the project as well. You're right. I mean, maybe you could do the one on the door out of metal and then the one in here. I mean, I don't know what that's made out of up there, if that was supported or not, but, and do vinyl in here, that would be fine. And I would like to see us do something for the families, invite them here, you know, and let them, you know, let us show our appreciation to Miss Candy and to Kenneth and his mom, or to Kenneth's wife and to Kevin and that whole family. So.
Well, again, those are just suggestions. It's whatever the board's prerogative, and I will be glad to make that happen any way you choose.
I'd like to see us move forward with it and go with the, like I said, I'd like to see us move forward with the vinyl in here and go with the metal sign out there of you know, let our students be involved in that. I know that probably couldn't be done before our next meeting, but our next meeting's not here. Our next meeting is here, and I'd like to be able to get this in here done before then, and maybe get the families here, if we could do you think that's possible?
I think we can definitely get this in here done in that time frame. It may be a challenge to get the metal
Yeah,
sign,
and that's fine.
but we can get the other portions that you would need for a presentation in here can be done.
Yeah. Okay. I'd make a motion that we move forward with the vinyl signage in here and move forward with the metal sign out there on the door. To kind of give our students some tie-in to this, because that's what Kenneth and Richard were all about. We're about our students. So I just think that would be a great honor to both of them to be able to know that the students are putting forth a little effort to honor them in a small way.
Okay. So, did I hear you make a motion?
I did.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
A motion to move forward with the signage as presented with vinyl, with metal on the door and vinyl inside the boardroom.
Mm-hmm. And I would like to see us do a proclamation too for the families. If that's, I don't know how that's done or how that's written.
So, signage.
Yes.
Sorry. Signage and proclamation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and for our August, what would that be, 8th meeting?
It is August the 8th.
August 8th meeting? Okay, so a motion for,
Second.
a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I do want to say, as far as students are concerned, students created that logo. You know, if you remember several years ago, we had a contest and we fused 2 or 3 different ideas that all came from students. So that's a student-designed logo that would represent them as well.
It looks good on shirts.
Yeah, it does.
All right, a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is we had a request for overnight travel to attend the Tennessee Strong Conference in Chattanooga, and that's coming up in 2 weeks. Field trip request form, that would be Ms. Kennard, Ms. Stromberger, and students, approximately 10 students that would be going for an overnight trip, 2 nights in Chattanooga. So that approval for that overnight travel is required by the board. So this time I would entertain a motion for approval of the field trip request as presented.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Hickey. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, but I got a question.
Second by Mr. McDonald. That's what discussion time is for. Now we'll have discussion.
Yeah, so can you explain to me what this Tennessee Strong Conference is?
It has to do with the anti-bullying campaign that they do in schools, a group that they call Move to Stand that we've worked with. So this is a select group that'll go and train and then come back and kind of train the trainer model to work with other students to reduce bullying in our schools.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask also, it does say student leaders right here, how are they chosen?
There's a selection process that when they go through the Move to Stand, that they select different leaders through the process. I would know without asking Ms. Kennard and Ms. Stromberger specifically how they got to that part, but the people stand out to be, they rise to the top during that process, and then they're selected as leaders to go on this trip.
Are they all high schools? Some
Yes.
middle school, all high
Yes.
school?
All high school, yeah, and the model is that high schoolers, once they train all these high schoolers, then they, throughout the year, will go to the middle school and elementary schools to model the good behavior. It's a good program because it gives the elementary students especially people to look up to and examples to follow, and we hope to curb those types of behaviors before they become problems at middle school and high school.
Great. Just wonder if is it rising seniors, rising juniors, or, I mean, it just.
It's all, but it is a mixture of all, but just those that show the most leadership. But it is normally upperclassmen that fall into these leadership roles.
Very good.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? Okay, have a motion and a second. Hearing none, no other discussion, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next brings us down to agenda item number 10, and policy 1200 says that each July, the first regular meeting in July, the board shall organize and elect chairman, vice chairman, TLN representative to serve a one-year term. And so that brings us to that. This being our first meeting in July, we will need to take care of that business. So we will start with nominations for chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a nomination that you continue your job that you're doing.
All right, I have nomination for Bob Young. Do I have any other nominations?
Mr. Young, why do we do this in July when elections and the turnaround is
Same
a
thing,
different
same
one?
question.
Good question.
That's a good question.
As policy says, we need to do it in July.
Okay.
Now,
That may need looking into also, you know.
well, there's,
I was just wondering.
not trying to force any issue here, board, this is policy, so just going through that.
Okay. I was just asking.
Board has prerogative to do what the board thinks is best to do in these situations, so.
I will make a note that first line is notated by it has a notation, a TCA notation, so it is backed by state statute. So there's a law that says in TCA 49.2.202 that it happens in the first meeting in July. So I just want to bring it to the board's attention. It does, as long as I've been doing this, it does seem out of time because there's always elections that happen in August, but it's based on a state statute.
Could Mr. McDonald also be nominated since he's on the district thing?
Yeah, I'd like to decline.
Unless you want to nominate, I say, all. All nominations cease, and Bob Young gets by acclamation.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Howard. Then we'll move next to Vice Chair. Nominations for Vice Chairman.
Chairman,
Jason
I'd like to
McDonald.
nominate Mr. Jason McDonald for Vice Chair.
Okay, you have Jason McDonald.
As far as I had to do nothing.
Nothing against you, Mr.
I-
McDonald. Are you gonna have a busy ticket this coming year? I mean,
Not necessarily.
You got two newer ones here that's already guaranteed 2 more years. I didn't know whether you wanted to.
It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. It's, I haven't had to do anything as far as chairman wise here because Mr. Young has been so gracious about being here each meeting, so I don't mind to serve again.
Unless you or Tracy.
Or unless one of the other two would like to step into that.
Well, I make a motion on nomination cease. Mr. McDonald gets vice president by acclamation.
All right. Then next, we'll move into our TLN representative for the term of 1 year.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we continue on the same path with Mr. Howard. Does a great job. Goes into, dives into those laws and can help us out there. So I appreciate his work.
Well, I would second that, Mr. Howard. I appreciate your digging into that. That's a tall task. So I appreciate the effort you put into that.
Thank you all for those compliments right there. And it would not bother me at all to nominate one of these two ladies right here that's gonna be here. Well, you wanna nominate Tracy since she's not here?
There you go.
All right. We have a nomination for Mr. Dwayne Howard to serve as our TLN representative. Do I have any more nominations?
I say the nomination stays.
All right, I have Ms. Stone suggests that all nominations cease, and that would make Mr. Howard approved by, did you say that? Approved by acclamation. There you go. Okay. All right, so that takes care of our officers for this upcoming year. I'd just like to say thank you for your vote of confidence, and appreciate the opportunity to serve. Next, we'll go to public comment. It's policy 1404. Beginning of each meeting, prior to each meeting, we put a sign-up sheet for public comment about any agenda items on items on our agenda. There has been no one signed up for to be recognized tonight, so we will move on then to new business. So we have 4 items of new business on our agenda tonight. Item 1 is a proposed dedication of the White County Middle School greenhouse in honor of Mr. Tim Mackey, who is retired. Similar to our policy 3210, as far as naming and dedicating facilities, naming facilities. Mr. Mackey would qualify for in this as being someone who has exemplified, identified.
Sorry, I forgot to put you back on speaker.
Exemplary service to our district, and it was this recommendation was made by Mr. Ward for the CTE, our CTE director, and so it was recommended for dedication and naming of the new greenhouse to Mr. Tim Mackey. So that's being proposed. So, board, we would have the opportunity to make that recommendation and make a motion to adopt that if we so choose.
I'd make a motion we adopt it.
All right,
Mr. Mackey gave a lot of time for this district.
I would agree. I would like to second that motion. Motion and a second.
Could I add?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
read somewhere where you could name after somebody that was not deceased. Does that qualify?
No.
A school you can't name, but a building within
Building or a
the
room?
compound of the school?
Yes.
Okay, now, I just wanted to make sure we wasn't.
And they have to be, have been retired for so long or something. Is that
But you're
correct?
right about it.
It just says, item number 4 of that policy says a single building on campus with multiple buildings or a specific area on the campus may be named for a living person, provided he or she has made an outstanding contribution to that school. And the naming of that facility shall not supplant the facility's name, so.
That's, thank you for bringing that up. That's item number 4 in policy 3210. All right, so I have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next would be, there is another fundraiser request, and that was for Woodland Park, and that is for the Woodland Park, the Slice the Price program with Domino's. They have requested for approval of this fundraiser that would run in from the time period of January 25th through January 2025 through February 2025. And what they're doing with this is they're wanting to raise funds for to allow them to finish their playground project. So anything you would like to speak to regarding that particular fundraiser, Domino's?
This came up, I believe, at our last meeting. I think Mr. Howard had a question about that too, to make sure that because it is a very lucrative fundraiser, and make sure that that's being spread around to the different schools. So it is, and Woodland Park has received that opportunity this year, and they want to put it to good use. It's a good opportunity for them to raise a lot of money in a short amount of time, and they want to put it towards their playground equipment. Playground equipment, like most things, is incredibly expensive, and so they want to do something that would be outside, with this fundraiser, would be outside of what they normally could do in that realm.
So do they have a rotation on what school? I know it started at Finley, went to Northfield, now Woodland Park. I mean, is there another, is there the next school in line? Do they know which one that's going to be?
I don't know that. I'd have to talk to John and see how they're doing that.
Okay.
But that's the idea, is what my understanding is, that each school would get an opportunity to, and we appreciate their support. They're great supporters of our district.
I have to say John and Danielle are great supporters, and Domino's has done a lot for our school district. So, yeah, kudos to them.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. And that's a great fundraiser.
That's almost in the rotation of our school board meeting,
It is.
in the latter part.
It is, yeah.
Didn't know if that had anything in week or not.
I'll fix that. I'll make a motion
All
to
right,
approve that.
so just want to make sure, so information on the fundraiser. So I have a
I'll second it.
motion by Mr. McDonald to approve, second by Ms. Stone. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to, make a note that it is a great fundraiser. That's probably one of the best ones. But it is another fundraiser. So, of course, every month, that's one of the things that I get held up with. That's another fundraiser. So, just bringing that up, we've added another one. So.
It really speaks to the cost to support the scope of our district and all the things that people desire to do. All right, so motion and second. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we will move into the reviewing the bids for the culinary arts project. Those bids have come in, and the bids came in higher than what was originally budgeted, and so we'll let Mr. Stromberger, and if needed, Mr. Markham would recognize you to walk through those. But you have the bid tab in your folder, and you can see the amounts that came back. Also in your folder that is added was the plan for the kitchen center, and so you have the drawings in there, those put together by the Upland Design Group, And so you'll have the layout and schematics of what's taking place there. So, Mr. Drombarger, I'll let you speak to that, how you think we need to be updated.
So just to remind the board, this conversation started a couple of years ago when we were getting ready to apply for the Integrated School Models Grant. This was part of the plan, was to do a culinary arts renovation as part of that close to $1 million that we would receive through that grant. At that time, about $450,000 was set aside for that, approximately for that build. And then we went through the process of the application process, and then we've been a year down the road of implementing the money as it's come in. And now we've gone to bid this project. Long story short, it's about $200,000 short of where the lowest bid came in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the bid came in $200,000 higher than what we bid. So the lowest bid is about $651. You know, you could say, well, how are we that far off? But if you look at this bid sheet, there's some other bids that are $200,000 more than that. So it's just these prices are all over the place. So obviously we're discouraged by that. So we felt like we had money set aside to work on that program, to build that and enhance that program. So where we are now, we have several options, and that's why I bring it before the board. You know, we have options of, I've talked to Mr. Markham, who says that we do have a fund, a capital fund projects that's of about $300,000 that's been left over from previous projects that we've had, so we could take the difference out of that, still have some money left over, and it wouldn't affect this year's current budget that was just approved. We have the option of looking at some cost savings or some value engineering, so to speak. We've looked at that. I don't think there's considerable value in that before you start reducing the quality of the program. You know, we can change the flooring, we can remove a wall, but you might get close to half of that $200,000 back before you really compromise the integrity of the program. I've talked with Mr. Vidrine, and who we've talked about renovating the current space. Currently, the culinary arts program is in the academic wing in the lower portion, but we've talked about this subject before. There's just a lot of mechanical, electrical, and plumbing issues in that building. Just to get electricity to the quantity and that we need it would be very, very expensive. It's limited us from doing other things with, you know, some other renovations we've wanted to do there, because we just can't. There's no more outlets, and we would have to have extensive work done by the city to get us more power there. There's a lot of plumbing. That place is not plumbed for that type of equipment, hood vents and things like that. So it could be renovated, but I don't know that we wouldn't surpass this number through that. And the other reason I really don't like that option is because that dedicates that room forever for culinary arts, where that room is so big it could be 2 classrooms if we needed it to be down the road. So if, as the high school, if it grows in numbers, that's 2 classrooms that I don't have to build later if I can just put a wall in there and split it. So, but if we dedicate that forever to culinary arts, and it would be, then that's 2 classrooms we'd be short when we needed them later. So as I think about growth, I think that's important space. There's another option of moving this culinary arts kitchen into the existing space in the Career Academy where Warrior Academy is now. But then I don't know where Warrior Academy goes. It's possible they could go to where culinary arts is now, that's up in the main building. That's a discussion logistically that we've had with them, with the high school. I'm not sure how that would work logistically. We tried Warrior Academy in a smaller space once before, and it didn't work very well. You know, we've kind of experimented with that before, so that wouldn't be my first option. And then we can wait. I mean, we can just hold off on this. We can punt the idea, but not doing this in some regards. You know, I've talked to Mr. Ward about is almost signaling the end of a program, because if we can't invest in this and do it with quality, I don't know if we can sustain it, because we just don't have the facilities to. You know, it's like having an auto mechanics shop without any bays and without any lifts and without all the things that they need to be quality. It is a decision that we need to make, and I'm not sure exactly. We'll have to talk to. Mr. Markham maybe I'll speak to this, but we have to look at, that's what the grant was written for. So we wrote a grant for $450,000 to go to this purpose. You can look at it this way, if the, you know, if the county, or excuse me, if the school system wants to come up with this $200,000 that we're short, you're gonna get $450,000, and for $200,000, you're gonna be able to build a state-of-the-art kitchen that will not exist anywhere, from what I'm told, pretty much between Nashville and Knoxville. There'll be nobody that has a facility to this quality in that area. This industry is expected to grow. I mean, every restaurant type job can be trained in this facility. And, you know, that industry is growing in this area, in this region. So there are jobs there that we can train students for. We feel like it's important, or we wouldn't have the program. But it is very expensive. So
Where on campus would this be located?
this is in the back. So if Ms. Crouch will cringe, but if I call it the Food Line Building, it's in the back right corner, which was the meat department. So there is a whole third of that building in the back that's open, it's unfinished, and we left it that way so we could grow into it. So this would be that back right corner. It would be back behind where the existing STEM lab is right now. So there's already
So
a door
behind
there.
the mechatronics lab and
Yes.
that
well,
back corner?
Yes, STEM is over in that, mechatronics
Yeah.
is here, STEM is in that back.
Okay.
It'll be back behind STEM in the very back corner of that building. There's some bones that are already there. I mean, there's obviously walls and a ceiling. There's water lines that would be tied into for sprinkler systems and all those sorts of things. But anything that we do, even moving to that room up front, we're gonna have to chisel out the floors to put drain lines in, and there's gonna be extensive construction, and then that one worries me too. I don't know how we pull that off while we have school there on either side of that room, and you're jackhammering things. So there's a lot to think about. You know, I'm not saying we can't cut some of that cost. We might be able to look at some of the other things, but the significant numbers are in MEP. They're in heating and cooling, in the flooring, in the electrical.
How many square feet total is, once you get it done, or walled in?
Close to 35.
3,500?
Thank you.
Could I make a motion that we discuss this when we do our discussion in Gatlinburg? And we can dig and dive into this a little closer with what a lot of these expenses are, and maybe we can put our heads together and figure out a better solution than overspending.
We could, so on a retreats for educational purposes, so we could certainly look educationally at the plans. Unless, well, first of all, is there a timeline on this as far as money being
I
spent?
think they just help, well, as far as the money being spent,
Or, let me.
Accepting a bid?
Accepting the bid.
yeah, I mean, they hold the bids
No.
typically for no more than 45, 60 days. 30 to 45 days.
So we're already probably close to 20 into it from the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So so what we're saying, we had basically a facility. We applied for the grant, and we had set aside $400,000 to this project, and it's basically low bid comes back in at
651.
651. So you're talking about roughly $260,000 over what our estimate was, and
I
there
think
was
203 was the number that Mr. Ward had calculated.
okay the difference.
Does that sound correct, Mr. Markham?
So the low bid, John A. Sergio's and Sons at 651 200, and the high bid was 818,900. So
Who's over this program?
Jacqueline Will is in charge of teaches the class.
Oh, I was just wondering, like, Ms. Stone was saying, as far as have discussion, and maybe we could get you know, someone that's over that to kind of explain a little more of how important all this is.
Mr. Chairman, you have a motion on the floor here. You have a motion on the table. Ms. Stone.
Ms. Stone, I'm sorry, we're motion to
To not
about it.
take a
To
vote
table this.
until we go
Ta-
to our summer retreat.
So, well, and we couldn't vote, take action there.
There.
It's not the purpose of that meeting.
So
So
the next
it would be tabled till the August 8th meeting. And this bid is, let's just make sure that the bid doesn't expire. So the bid was received on the 25th of June.
Are you able to check on that to see?
Let's check on that before we make.
So while you're doing that, do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
So,
Now we discuss.
yeah, so now some discussion. I know there was a couple options that Mr. D had laid out here and some, things that we could do. So the money that was set aside is set aside specifically for culinary arts. There's no, if we scrap that project, if we don't move forward with that project, we can't use that money towards an electrical program or to further our FFA programs or
Our grant experts are shaking their head no.
Okay, that was.
So this money would only be able to use for culinary arts.
Mr. Chairman, I want to ask, on top of Mr. McDonald's question right there, didn't this come through the Innovative School Grant Fund? How was it designated then if we got a lump sum of $1 million?
Well, when you write the grant, you have to propose, here's what we're going to spend it on. We're going to spend X number of dollars on this and X number of dollars on that. So it was set aside at that time to say this is what we think it's going to cost to build this kitchen, and we put that across. We put that aside.
Memory serves me right, we asked for figures for months, but we never got anything till like the last month right there, what figures were. So you had these figures implemented, that's getting argumentative. I don't understand how you had to ask for that grant money right there before we got the grant, when it was a lump sum, so.
Well, no, the lump sum was what was offered to every district, every high school was a lump sum. But when you apply, most grants, you have to designate what you're going to spend it for. They're dedicated funds within, down to the dollar usually in those categories. So we dedicated lots of different, I think, I don't know what the number is, of programs that we assisted through that grant. And obviously similarly to what we did with ESSER, we had to dedicate all those dollars in ESSER, and we set aside $6 million closely for Bondycroft. And we said, this is what we're going to do at Bondycroft, and that's what that money went to. And it's just, similarly, it came up just a little short there, and the boards had to just make up a little bit difference there. So respectively, we're in the same type of situation where we set aside a number we thought was going to cover it, and we've come up a little short, and now we have a decision to make.
So in theory or absolute, there's no way to redistribute this money?
There's not any way to redistribute it. I don't know the terms of that grant, but normally the funding would revert back if we don't use it for what it's intended for.
I'm trying to dig to see, but I'm not familiar with that.
But 35 days.
35 days.
But that's a good question that I think
So-
can be answered before we make a decision on this too. Well, it can be redistributed or not.
35 days would be, it would expire before we would meet again, July 30th.
So, in essence, we would.
35 days?
25th of June.
Yeah, it would be in August.
This is,
35 days.
In June?
July
It's
30th.
July 30th.
So in essence, we could pour over this at our retreat, talk about it, not make any decisions there, and then we could call a special meeting before the bid expires at the end of this month. In essence, we could come back and that would be the only thing that we could talk about.
If that's what you want to call a special meeting for, then yes.
If not, we're going to have to go back through the entire bid process again.
Yeah.
Is there any way like you say, that we can narrow it down, what of this we might could lighten up the expense of?
We've done some of that. I mean, Mr. V, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, I met with the architect and the contractor, and went over some of the aspects of the bid. Looked at, what the numbers were, the budgets and stuff like that. And there was a few things that we could do. First of all, you got a $35,000 contingency. You have $35,000 contingency, which you don't want her to touch unless you absolutely have to. So the other thing we looked at, we could take a wall out and save $12,000. We could take a floor, change the type of floor in the classroom part, not necessarily in the kitchen part, because of health codes and things of that nature. And you might save $15,000. There's a stair in the back and a door that was written into the bid to replace it. From talking with the contractor and the architect, we could do away with that. That's only $7,000. So we're only up to $35,000 that we possibly do. The electrical and mechanical is half of what the bid is. They're each around 125 to 150. He could tell you that because it requires another unit, curb cut in.
Well, like some of the appliances, like this,
That doesn't even include appliances. The only appliance is the hood, and that's expensive. That's the only thing.
So, may I ask, this is not a turnkey quote right here, this is not ready to sit down and start teaching?
Some of the appliances are bringing over from, I think, was it Central View, who taking some of that?
The cooler.
The cooler from Central View, there's some sinks,
Yeah.
dishwasher.
And then they bring a lot of current appliances that they already have in the existing kitchen right now.
All right, so we've got, so the motion and second is to table this until after the retreat, and this be a subject that we review during the retreat, just to get familiarize ourselves with the plan. But we would have to.
how hard would it be to have them resubmit bids?
Well, we can do that, obviously. Normally, traditionally, it goes up in price, usually. I mean, Mr. Markins.
Once everybody kind of knows where everybody's chips are at on the table,
Mm-hmm.
then
We tell them it's too high, you gotta come in lower.
they'll still go find another job.
That'd be
And you only
fine,
had-
there's other people out there.
We only had 3 guys submit, 3 contractors submit, and 4 of them came to the pre-bid.
Yeah, well, and I will say there are other contractors out there, but they all have to have the appropriate licensing through the state agency. They got to be bonded. There's lots of stipulations that we have to go through to protect ourselves and the citizens of Pike County. But the people that bid on this project are the people that we see bid on all our projects, with the exception of Stubbs. Everybody else typically, we have anything, they always recommend. This is kind of, I'm surprised about who bid, really who didn't bid on this project.
Back, just one other note. Can you talk to that 300,000 that's out there and where that came from?
Sure, so that actually got set up back, when we started Cassville. When we redid the Cassville, when we did the Cassville project, we moved some funds out of the general purpose school fund back at that time and moved into a capital projects fund. As Cassville ended down, we just left that money there. When Finley come about, we processed all Finley through there. And so right now, there's about $300,000 and some change left in that capital projects fund that it's just sitting in the capital projects fund. And if there or any other capital projects that we want to use, that money can be moved back into the general purpose school fund. But it's never been in any of the discussions that we've had about fund balances and stuff like that. It's never been in mind, so.
And I just want to make that note that, and like these prices any more than anybody else at this table, but that type of fund is what that was there for, in case we had a capital project and we needed something to use. That's what it's been there. It's been there for several years now, for a purpose such as this. So just, I'm not suggesting that's where the board needs to go, just pointing that out for information purposes.
Ms. Fowler, are you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Did you have any, did you have any thoughts or comments on that, Ms. Fowler? On the cafeteria? Are you hearing our discussion?
Yes, I am. And, no, I don't really like it too much. It's hard to, justify spending money over when we're in a negative right now. And I don't know. I think we need to look at it. I don't know when they decide how much of the grant they're going to use for certain things. I don't know who helps decide this, but I feel like this is where a committee could come into effect. That way the school board is aware of these things before it happens, of the amount.
Well, and that's fair from where you're at, but this is coming from funds that were, what was it, 2 years ago when this grant was applied for? So we're.
Why didn't we have a bid back closer to that time? Why are we just now getting a bid?
Well, again, the bids don't only last for 30 days, so.
I mean, so Luke, and if I'm recalling correctly, we got an estimate through the architect at that time, and that was about where our estimate was a couple of years ago based on that. And then in order to actually get documents where contractors can bid, we have to go through a lengthier process and detail out specifically where goes what, how goes everything goes.
And other projects where we bought a piece of equipment that was readily available. In this process, you had to go through the architects, they had to draw all these plans, and so by the time it gets to the point that you actually put it out to bid, a lot of time has passed.
Fire marshal has to approve it, since there's kids in there, and there's requirements that he adds, that's all it is.
All right, have,
So in theory, we could have used this $300,000 to keep us, our budget balanced. No, we couldn't.
It has to go for this.
it's,
It has to be used on capital
it
projects.
has to be used on capital.
Technical education.
So, Mr. Morgan, what, just for clarity, I mean, when you're taking money that's been appropriated for capital, you don't spend it all, you put it in a capital fund, it remains there, and that's gonna be capital money, it's not general purpose monies, it's gonna be used for capital projects, what it's in for. We've now received grant funding that came in about 60%, that our bids came in about 60% what we estimated, and so we're gonna be basically, from the board standpoint, it's considering whether or not we would fund the difference of that out of that capital fund that we have available to us. Is that correct?
That's correct, and just to be clear, I mean, the board can move that back into unassigned fund balance in the general purpose school fund. I mean, they could unallocate it from capital projects. But I guess my thought process is if you are gonna fund the difference, then that is a good avenue to do it through, so it doesn't affect your general fund balance.
Because, understand. Other thoughts, discussions?
Come to vote.
All right, so we have a vote to table this till after summer retreat.
That's correct.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, then we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is,
Old business.
old business.
Well, it's Actually, vacations and holidays.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
vacations
Forgot
and
about
holidays, that was one that that's one that we moved out of our consent. So let's, bear with me just one second, get back to that page. All right, so it was mentioned about including President's Day, proposing to have President's Day be included as a paid holiday for staff that would be on or support staff that would otherwise have to use personal time off if they wanted to get paid on that day, because this would not, they would not being in school, they would not otherwise get paid for this particular holiday. So we had it was mentioned about adding that to our holiday calendar, but there were some questions about how this would impact our budget. So we moved it out, put in new business, so board members give us the opportunity to continue that discussion.
I'd make a motion that we table this until the August meeting so we can get the financials from Mr. D and Mr. Markham on the cost impact towards our budget, since this would be a non-budgeted item for this current year.
Okay, I have a motion to table until August. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Ms. Stone. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is old business. There are no old business items to be considered tonight, so that leaves us to chairman's comments. Our next board meeting will be August 8th, 2024 here at the Board of Education. We'll have our work session begin at 5 p.m. with the regular board meeting at 6. Next weekend, TSBA Summer Law Conference in Gatlinburg. We'll be staying at the Park Vista Hotel and attending summer law that will begin on Friday and Saturday. We will then, the afternoon of Saturday, July 20th, have a board retreat, and we'll get to an agenda for that. That'll take place from 1 to 5 p.m. at the Park Vista Hotel Conference Room in Gatlinburg. So that's the comments, announcements that I have. So at this time, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate your attendance tonight.
Can't, Ms. Stone. Ms. Stone.
I didn't take the report down.